Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, we're going to be talking about Boeing, the company that makes airplanes that, well, obviously haven't been doing too great recently. I mean, these guys have been all in the news, and that's not really why I'm making this video in particular. Like, obviously, all the news stories that are going on, it's worth talking about. It's worth bringing these issues up and highlighting that a company that literally has the safety of so many people every single day in their hands is just constantly failing. But obviously, too, last night the news broke that a massive whistleblower against Boeing just so happened to kill himself in a hotel parking lot because, you know, the people who spend years trying to expose companies for safety violations and bad products that could lead to the harm of people, typically, you know, they just decide to end it all in a hotel parking lot like 3 days into their testifying in court against said company. And obviously, with all of these different news stories just constantly just spiraling through, it might be a little hard for people to even keep up with all of the crazy shit that's been going on. But in today's video, I just wanted to talk about it because it's so obvious how shady Boeing is as a company, and how much they're getting away with is just completely ridiculous. So first, let's start with, it's insane that I have to say first let's start with when talking about a company, but first let's start with the numerous safety violations, okay? Now, there are so many different instances of safety violations and issues going on with Boeing planes that I can't list all of them in one video, by the way. If I did, we'd be here for a long time, let's just say that. But just in the month of March, there have been multiple massive stories about issues happening with Boeing planes. And I'm not talking about, oh, a Boeing plane caught on fire during testing. I'm talking about these are Boeing planes having massive safety issues with people on board, with passengers in the fucking plane. So, alright, so the first one I want to talk about, this is back in January, and this is on an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX, right? And this is one that got a lot of coverage, but there were some loose bolts apparently on a door plug on a fucking plane that is in mid-flight, and guess what? The entire door plug blows out in the middle of the flight. Loose bolts cause the problem and whatnot. The FAA grounds all the 737 MAX 9 planes that have that door plug. Last week, apparently the FAA released their reports on a 6-week audit for the company, and they had several issues of non-compliance, from the manufacturing process to the parts handling to the quality control. It wasn't looking good. And of course, this is just off of one incident. And like I said, here in March, there have been numerous incidents with Boeing planes. A Boeing 747 that took off and was like actually flying had the engine catch on fire. Just a few days ago, a 777 leaving San Francisco had a whole wheel come off of the plane during takeoff. One taking off from Australia just yesterday had a bunch of fuel leak all out of the plane while it was taking off. It just, I don't know, it seems like every day now, or every couple of days, there's a new story coming out about, oh hey, a Boeing 737 taking off had a fucking wing collapse, or, I don't know, that might be a little extreme, had a wheel come off, or had a fucking door bolt loose that caused half the door to break apart, or 30 people were injured after the plane landed wrong, or just some weird shit, right? And obviously, as consumers, and a lot of you, I assume, fly. I don't fly anywhere. I don't really fly if I have to go places most of the time, at least not now. But, I mean, there's people who they fly for their jobs, they fly because family live across the country, whatever it may be, right? So they have to fly much more often. And I can't imagine being one of those people right now with all of these massive safety problems constantly going on, and with all of these news stories spiraling about, oh, new Boeing incident where plane damn near fell apart in midair. It's insane to read because obviously if you really have heard anything about flying, it turns out that flying by airplane is actually the safest method of travel. I mean, it's much more safer than driving a car, but for the average person, they read stories like this constantly coming out now, and what do you think that does for public trust in airplanes and in the flight companies and things like that? So a lot of people are starting to get pretty reserved about the entire thing. Now, thankfully, it seems like something may happen happen here, like in terms of the quality control. That FAA incursion, I guess, into what they were all doing at Boeing and checking out their safety standards showed that they failed 33 of 89 of the FAA standards across the board for Boeing. So I just want to go ahead and present the idea that if the FAA, the government, is saying that they failed damn near half of all of the safety standards that they checked for, I will personally assume that they are actually lying about that. And I'm not saying, oh, they're lying about that to protect Boeing and say that Boeing are the good guys here. I'm saying that because the government is probably, in my opinion, covering up how bad it really is. So if they admitted that, oh, only like 40% of all these tests were failed for safety, that means the real number is probably, 60, 70%, 55%. It's something higher, I would assume. Obviously, if they come out and they say, oh, they failed 70 of 80 or whatever tests, people are going to be pretty freaked the fuck out. That's going to have horrible repercussions on the airline market. But of course, if they also come out and say, hey, they didn't fail any of these safety checks, they're all A-okay, then people would know immediately, like, yeah, something's up, they're lying, right? So personally, I think it's higher than what they're saying in terms of the safety problems. There's even footage circulating around on Twitter and whatnot that presumes to be from like 15 Boeing employees at one of their manufacturing plants. And like 10 of the fucking employees outright said, yeah, I wouldn't fly on these planes. I see how they do things around here. I wouldn't fly on this.
Plane they build. Did you fly on one? No. You won't fly on one. Did you fly on one of these planes?
No, not really.
Of 15 workers asked randomly, 10 said they would not fly on the Dreamliner.
And of course, it's become this massive situation. And then the probably biggest news story of it all just broke last night. And that's when we all find out that a whistleblower in this entire thing just magically turned up dead in his car. I mean, you know how this always goes, man. The whistleblowers who dedicated years of their lives to exposing these massive conspiracies and these big issues with corporations and the government and whatnot, they're just so famously known for committing suicide right before they hit the brink of whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, a whistleblower, as he's called, named John Barnett, okay, was probably not, of course, legally saying assassinated by Boeing, knows what goes on at the company. He has actual knowledge and know-how on how the process goes for building these things, the management and the employees, all this shit, right? He's not just some nobody, but basically this guy worked for Boeing for a long-ass time. In like 2017, he comes out and he starts exposing Boeing for all these safety concerns, telling us all about how, Boeing's basically skipping rocks when it comes to their whole quality control and shit like that. And then he's 3 days into testifying when he's found dead, okay? So he's in court testifying against Boeing, claiming that they have security and safety problems with their products. Which I think obviously we can all see now, right? We can all definitely realize, oh, hey, maybe this guy wasn't bullshitting. Maybe these people who've been speaking out about this aren't crazy after all. But yeah, I mean, 3 days into testifying against the billion-dollar weapons manufacturer and airline company, he is found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a hotel parking lot in South Carolina. Because, everyone who's suicidal, right? Everyone who's ever dealt with suicidal thoughts out there, right? As we all know, I mean, the best place to kill yourself is a hotel parking lot when you're in the midst of one of the biggest exposés in this corporation's history. I mean, I personally, like every suicide victim I've ever known in real life, they all did it in a hotel parking lot, dude. It's just, I don't know, that's where everybody goes to do it. So of course the authorities are quote unquote investigating the circumstances of his death, but I mean, do we really believe that they're actually fucking investigating? Do we really believe that even if the authorities, if they did actually investigate this, would they do something about it? Do we really believe that? I mean, come on now. This is the same company that, they're like the fourth biggest weapons manufacturer in the world. They literally kill people all the time. They, as a company, one of their sole purposes for existing is to make shit that kills people. And apparently it's some far-fetched conspiracy to claim that this guy might have been murdered, in a silencing attempt. But like I said, the nice folks at Boeing, they would never do that. They would never hurt this guy. They would never kill or silence a political opponent who might be just happening to expose the safety concerns he knew about at the company right in the midst of their biggest public scandal probably ever, or at least that I can remember, for the exact same issue. I mean, it's such a crazy coinky-dink, right? These things just happen. These things just fucking happen, man. So, I mean, you look at all of this information that's just been happening with Boeing, and it makes you think, what the fuck, right? Like, it's just wild and insane to think that once your company grows to a certain point and you cross a specific threshold, you are essentially immune from anything happening to you. Like I said, the FAA, they grounded 737 Maxes or whatever for like a month, and they apparently have forced, after this recent audit of Boeing, they've forced them to have a 90-day plan came up with to, I guess, address the safety concerns with their planes. But once again, Boeing works directly with the US government all the fucking time when it comes to military and technological purposes. Am I really supposed to believe that this billion-dollar corporation isn't just gonna lobby the government or pay off some fucking high-ranking official to make this whole situation go away? And I know some of you are probably like, oh, dude, Optimus, he sounds like a crazy fucking conspiracy theorist right now. This guy he's off the wall. He's unhinged, man. And I get it, right? Because it really sounds like I'm just saying a bunch of fucking hoopla, a whole bunch of nothing. But everything that I'm talking about really happened, and it's verifiable. You can go see it anywhere. They're not even trying to hide the fact that this whistleblower ended up dead in his fucking car. Everybody in the world has been talking about it. It's trending on Twitter. There's media outlets covering this. And of course, you know, everyone's just, oh, well, I mean, they found him dead in his car by a suicide, guys. Nothing more, nothing less. No questions to ask here. And the craziest part about all of it is just like every time one of these whistleblowers or these people who were a couple weeks away from curing cancer or were a few days away from fucking creating hydrogen-powered cars, or these people who are, you know, 3 days away from exposing another massive government conspiracy, it's wild how they all end up committing suicide, you know what I mean? And it almost always happens to just be with a gun. And like I said, once a company reaches a certain point where they just make so much fucking money and the CEOs and the executives are just buddy-buddy with all the politicians and all the other rich people, really nothing gets done to them. You know, they'll have to ground some planes, or they'll have to come up with a strategy to fix them. But of course, like they always do, they'll just do the bare minimum that it takes to get their planes back in the air and to keep public consumer opinion on their side, and then they'll just lax where they can again. And keep in mind, these are companies that just a few years ago during the pandemic, the taxpayers were bailing out for tens of billions of dollars to make sure the airline industry didn't fucking collapse and people could still go to the airport and go to other cities if they needed to. And these are now the same companies that in plain sight are ignoring any safety regulation that they're held to, are totally not, by the way, killing whistleblowers speaking out against them, and facing pretty much zero repercussions for it, man. So I don't know, it's just wild to watch all this happen, because in 4 or 5 days, whenever the new massive news story comes along and everyone starts forgetting, that's exactly how it'll go. You know, this shit'll just get swept under the rug. In a couple days, everyone will move on to whatever fucking news story pops up, you know? I don't know what it'll be, but there will be something that comes along to replace all of the noise being made about this. And we'll all just forget about it, and we'll all just continue to hope that Boeing, when they're putting the airplanes we fly around in together, really care about your safety, which they don't. They care about profit. They care about money. They care about making their margins larger. And if that means that you or your family fucking die because the door flies off the plane and you get sucked out of it, then so be it. You'll end up just like the whistleblowers. So, I don't know, man. It's just absurd to watch all of this in real time and just realize, like, yep, this'll have no consequences. Nothing will be done about this. So, anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, talking about Boeing, and definitely not killing myself if I end up dead, by the way, and signing out. And that's a wrap on this video, but big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. For $10 a month, you get access to loads of exclusive videos and archived live streams, my members only Minecraft server where you can possibly appear in gameplay, early access to all new uploads, an invitation to the private Discord, and much more.